This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me, as usual, are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
We've got a total of 6 films to look at tonight. We're going to kick off with the latest shark movie called Into the Deep. Then we have a nice surprise, Sunray, Fallen Soldier, followed by a big red kangaroo running amok in Australia called Rippy. Then we have 2 low-budget action movies. The first one's called Elite Force B.R.I. And then we've got MR9 Do or Die. And we're going to round off with a bit of Hitchcockian thriller called Blackwater Lane. Our short shot is a Western called Queen of Hearts. And for our DTV throwback, we've got Michael Dudikoff and Steve James in the canon film Avenging Force. So, without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Into the Deep. Modern-day pirates on the hunt for sunken drugs kidnap a boat of tourists and force them to dive into shark-infested waters to retrieve their contraband. Okay, so that was the IMDb synopsis. I think a more fair synopsis would be to mention the fact that the protagonist is a young woman who watched her father be killed by a shark when she was younger, was raised by her mum, and also an elderly Richard Dreyfus. She's dragged along to a treasure hunt with a friend of hers. And it's then that things start going horribly wrong as they sort of search for sunken treasure. Steve, what did you make of Into the Deep?
It was okay, not great. Kind of like a generic, shark movie. With quite ropey special effects. And some quite bad acting, to be fair. I just thought the performances weren't up to much, apart from Richard Dreyfus, but he's just playing the, old granddad, doddery granddad nowadays. But again, this is the thing that got me. He's there when she's a kid, helping her get over it and overcome her fears of the water. And then he's there in present day.
And he hasn't aged a bit.
Not at all. Not at all. It's exactly the same. Even though you're probably talking about 20 years difference. You know what I mean? And just little things like that. I mean, Stuart Townsend showing up as well. I was surprised at that. But again, he's phoning it in.
Yeah.
It's like everyone phones it in, and there's no backstory in anybody else as well. It's just her character that gets.
Yeah, because that tells you a lot, doesn't it? Basically,
yeah.
She's the only one that the film really cares about.
Yeah.
On that sort of level.
And the main bad guy, he was terrible. He just got on my nerves. And just couldn't stand. I mean, I'm not. Not in a. Couldn't stand him. He's such a bad. He's just an arsehole. Just cut my arse with him. It was just so disappointing.
Indeed. Right, so this is directed by Christian Sesma, who's a director we've covered a few times before. I'm just trying to remember the one we really did actually like. Just bear with me a second. Every last one of them a few years back now. But that was really good. They also did Pay Dirt with, is it Luke Goss?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, that was the one.
Is Luke Goss? Yeah, that wasn't too bad. He also did Till Death Do Us Part, which was absolutely shit. I think we hated that one.
Was that the wedding one?
Yeah, the
one with all the
one.
jazz music and stuff.
That's the one.
Yeah, that was absolute bag of shite. That one.
Was it him though?
Oh
no! Sorry, I'll tell you what it is. No, it wasn't him. But this is this is written by Chad Law,
right.
And Chad Law wrote that bloody wedding one, but he's done
Okay.
quite a few films for like Isaac Florentine and Kaufman. Forgotten his first name. William Kaufman.
William Kaufman, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So he's written scripts for both of them, and they've turned out really well. I think maybe it is that sort of working with a decent director that actually helps his scripts, but because when he doesn't work with a decent director, his stuff stinks a bit. But yeah, so he wrote this one. Christian Sesma directed it. As I said, every last one of them we did like a couple of others of his, and I think it is a bit of it almost seems to be like a rite of passage for DTV directors to do a shark movie. We've had James Nunn do one. We've got Liam O'Donnell, who did the Skyline films. He's just done one, which will be out this year. So I'm not surprised to see Christian Sesma do one of these. There are a couple of little niggles for me. One is, as you mentioned about Richard Dreyfus, not aging at all. The other one is the very first guy to get chomped in this. Okay, the inciting incident, not the dad, but when
Not the dad, yeah.
but later on. Okay, there's footage of him getting his leg ripped off, from the knee.
Yeah.
When they get him on the boat, all his injuries around his shoulder, and he's got both legs.
I'll be honest, I didn't clock that one.
It was pretty obvious because I was thinking, well, that's pretty bit of gnarly footage they've got there. They put together, and then as soon as they get him on land, it's like, yeah, we didn't know how to block out his leg to do the prosthetic leg or whatever. So that was a bit silly. I did like the sort of the sort of triangle dynamic, as it were. So you got like the young woman and the tourists, and then you got these sort of hardened criminal types, and then you got the sharks.
Yeah,
so
it reminded me. It also reminded me of that that Van Damme one we watched the other week.
Yeah.
With added sharks. That's kind of what it was.
Basically it. That is basically it. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned sort of ropey effects. I did like one particular bit when she does sort of finally confront her fears at the end, and even though they make the shark look ridiculously massive for that shot, I thought it was a pretty decent shot. I thought they did, composited quite well. One of the things they did do is they purposely made the water murky rather than sort of crystal blue, as you'd expect. So it kind of hid some of the, I suppose some of the compositing. But I didn't mind the sharks, I must admit. So it was all right. It's a middling shark movie. I put things like Great White and the James Nunn one, Sharkbait, sort of towards the top end of sort of schlocky shark movies. I'd say this sits somewhere in the middle. For me. Yeah, so not terrible, but it's there, and as I said, it's a rite of passage for DTV guys these days to do a shark movie. On that note, Steve, what are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 6.
Yeah, a 6 is very fair. I'm going to join you on that. 2 6s for Into the Deep. Go check it out. Our next film is Sunray, Fallen Soldier. A war veteran calls on friends from his past to hunt down those responsible for the death of his daughter. Along the way, he learns more about himself than he anticipated as a violent crime syndicate unravels in his wake. Now, Rich, we were just chatting a minute ago about how you have certain expectations. People, when say you, I mean the royal you, us, have certain expectations about the quality of films from certain labels, so we say, and with, for example, Signature Entertainment, which released Into the Deep, we expect usually something pretty polished. I didn't know much about Sunray going into it, and of the films that we were reviewing tonight, this was actually at the back of my queue. So I'd watched the others beforehand. So let's just say my expectations were a bit lower than usual. But then the Vertigo logo comes up at the beginning. And that perked me up because I'm thinking, Vertigo don't do shit. You know, usually you can rely on Vertigo. So I was intrigued going into this. And boy, was I right to be intrigued because this kills it. I was a bit unsure at the beginning with that sort of attack and everything because I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking, you know, they look like soldiers, but they're not dressed quite right. You know, and I'm thinking, is this a budget thing? And then it turns out, no, it's not a budget thing. These guys are sort of like, you know, hung on to some of their kit from when they were soldiers, you know, and sort of blending it in with other things. So it looks, you know, semi decent. But then, you know, the quality of the acting for one thing, the action the other, the score, which is probably one of my two top scores of the year so far. I mean, that doesn't sound a lot, but we've watched about 20 films already this year. And most of the scores have been pretty generic. This one actually works. This actually reminded me a lot of Monkey Man in the way some of it is lit and the way the score is used to provide beats for the action. I thought it reminded me a lot of Monkey Man in that way. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I was really stoked by it. Steve, what do you make of Sunray?
I thought it was great. I really, really enjoyed this. I thought it got right into the actual emotion of the character. You know, giving a decent reason for revenge, and you know why he wants the revenge and stuff like that. Now, like you said, script's great. Everything's great about this film. Really, really enjoyed it. Until right at the very end. And it does something.
Which let's not discuss it too much.
No, I don't want to spoil it or anything like that. But it kind of takes away from the whole film. If you know what I mean, I don't want to divulge anything else because it's just going to spoil it. But it doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's knocked a point off for me because it really pissed me off.
Well, I'll say that basically that's what I thought was going to happen from early in the film. I was thinking I feel like I can see where this is going, and then I was watching other scenes and I was just thinking, no, maybe it's okay. No, maybe it's not going to go there. But maybe it does just. I'd have to watch it again to see whether it sort of shoots itself in the foot. But I think it probably just about gets away with it. It's say without going into details. It's I think overall it was okay for me. But I agree with you. I do sort of think a bit like it did sort of knock it down just a bit.
Yeah.
But just
apart from that, it's really, really good.
Absolutely. You know, from a tactical point of view, I think this works really well. You know, this is it's basically Gangs of Portsmouth instead of Gangs of London. You know,
do you know what? Gangs of London came to mind when I was watching it as well. Yeah. And I was thinking you say the weapons and stuff. I was like, I know that you often notice, certain things about weaponry and how it's used in the films and stuff. And this is made by actual Royal Marines commandos. So I'm expecting that you probably didn't see some of the problems that you saw maybe in some other films that you watched.
Well, that's right. The only thing is, during that opening bit, I mean, there's people I know on social media who would immediately pick it up. There's this thing called chicken wings. When you're holding like an assault rifle, you got to keep your elbows tucked into your body, So what the first thing people go, yeah, chicken wings. You got that space. You're not in full control of your weapon. Basically, is the way it'll come across, which is a shame. But other than that, I mean, the bit in particular I really loved. The car chase towards the end, and they're hiding behind the wheels. but they're lying flat. I thought that looked really, really, really solid. Really enjoyed that. I mean, yeah, the action scenes were great all the way through. The tactical stuff looked great. Yeah, as you said, sort of actual ex-commandos were involved in making this film, and it shows. This is head and shoulders above much of the stuff that we cover. Rich, over to you. What do you make of Sunray?
Yeah, I'd say I agree with you. I think it was really good. Sort of really didn't know quite what to expect. Saw it had been picked up by a decent distributor. Saw it was originally going to be theatrical first, and then it seemed like that got dropped, as far as I can tell, and then it became it's going to be in select cinemas on tandem with a digital release.
Yeah.
But you can tell that this is a film that was made to be seen in a cinema. It's had a lot of care and attention put into it. The cinematography is really good. There's lots of really well put together camera work and cinematography, and the color corrections and all that sort of thing. They've put a lot of work into the choreography on the action. There's a great bit. It's one of those action film. It's one of those films that's not really an action film. It's a drama with action in it. But there's enough action for action fans. I mean, say something like Monkey Man, which is promoted as an action film, is probably on the same par. You mentioned that earlier. And I would say something else like Hummingbird, the Jason Statham film, which is also about quite a damaged soldier character. I'd probably put that alongside this as well. But it is fairly standard. I mean, the action sort of thriller plot of it is revenge, Taken, anything like that, all that sort of Death Wish, whatever. It's all that kind of thing, but it's all sort of got this, very damaged, isolated character who's, he can't leave the war behind, or he can't leave, the past behind, and his relationships have all fallen apart. He's seeing a therapist, visiting a therapist, and he's getting all these flashbacks, and there's all this stuff going on. That's all handled really well. And they mix that with all the sort of camaraderie and banter between the team. And say the mission, we see them at the start. That ends up being an in media res thing to get the movie going. So they open it with a burst of action and then go, actually, we're going to go back and, we're going to build up the story to get to that point. But yeah, and, all that stuff where you see him in, what's our lead character's name? Mr.
Tip? No.
He's played by Tip Cullen, Andy.
Yeah.
So he's working in this tool shop. It's really mundane. There's that contrast between the sort of excitement of his, professional work and this mundane role that he's found himself in. But he's not happy. He can't. It's that return to civilian life kind of thing that he can't do it. It's just not made for him, and he's just kind of sucking it up, and he's having these outbursts, and it's sort of getting him in trouble out in the real world, and what he really wants, he can't be doing what he was trained to do, kind of thing. And it's kind of, he finds this, this thing happens, the inciting incident of there's a fatality, and that's the inciting incident to some stuff that goes on. So I was really impressed, in short.
There's a few things I want to mention. The first is when he raids that drugs den, and basically they just plonk the camera down in the corridor.
Yeah,
and it's a bit like that Daredevil fight scene where he's going in and out of rooms. Sometimes he'll come out, or sometimes he'll throw a villain out or something. There's that was really good. But what really made that for me, that scene, and what made me pay attention to the music, is the way that the music and the action sort of merged together. So the music started slowing down and be sort of nothing on the screen, and all of a sudden it'll sort of start pounding because action is starting to happen again in the middle of it. So that worked really well. Then there's that shootout at the quarry. Where it's the opposite of what that earlier scene was, because the camera is incredibly fluid, and it's all done in a one shot of the camera sort of moving around everyone as they sort of dive for cover and start shooting and everything. That was really well. And moving away from the action, you mentioned the sort of therapist scene, the bit with the elastic band. It's going right, every time you snap the band, and every time he snaps it, the editing was pinned sharp. Basically, it sort of cut to, this horrific sort of like battle scene, and then sort of come back. I thought that worked really, really well as well. So yeah, this was a total shock. And well, in the best way, it was a really nice surprise to get to see this and review it. On the scores, over to Steve.
Oh, I don't know. I really don't. You know what? I'm gonna forgive it. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Rich?
I'm going to give it an 8 as well. There's just 2 things I want to say. Is interesting fact is that several members of the cast, including Tip Cullen, who's the lead, had small roles in one more shot.
Okay.
There's I think 3 or 4 of them did that, and also say a lot of these guys are, they're actors now.
Yeah,
but
ex-military.
Ex-military Royal Marines Commandos. And there was another one of the guys, Stephen Blades. He appeared in a film which I can't remember whether we actually reviewed it or not, but I know I wanted to when it came out. But it was called Outlawed, which is made by a guy called Adam Collins. He was the lead and co-director, and he himself is also a former Royal Marines Commandos, but who's established himself in movies and stuff. And I would say that was on a different level. That was more of a B movie, style more than this. Yeah. But I think this and that would make an interesting sort of double bill. So you think about films.
Was that the one that was set? That was set in Nottingham, wasn't it? That one.
Nottingham, yeah, that was the Nottingham one. Yeah,
we did. I'm pretty covered it. Yeah, we did.
Yeah. I did enjoy it. I would like to watch it again. The what was I going to say? You hear about some of these films where they, like American films that cast soldiers and stuff. So you got like Act of Valor.
Yeah.
And the Clint Eastwood film about the train, Paris. That wasn't ex-military guys. I think that was just, I don't know if that was ex-military guys or not, but it was the real people involved in the incident kind of thing. And I get a bit nervous about the film being promoted as like, this has real Royal Marines in it. And I was like, that can be a double-edged sword. And I think, but no, that really, really works. So it's actually the film. This film is really, really well made. The whole cast is great. The choreography is really good.
The script's really. I mean, there's that sort of incident at the beginning with you get the banter between the bad guys, the drug smugglers and that, and they've got this new guy, and they go, "Why are you late?" Go, "Oh well, we've hidden the drugs in these watermelons."
Yeah,
and they're like, "Why?" It's because he probably saw it in a movie once. Basically, he thought it'd be a good idea, but it's England. You're in a white van. Unless the cops know that you're a known smuggler or something, no one's going to stop you or anything.
That was a weird start to the film because it kind of set it up as kind of more of a comical film than it actually is. It's quite a comical opening, and then it gets deadly serious. It sort of throws you off kilter.
Yeah, there's one other scene I want to mention as well. The guy in the kebab shop, who's the boyfriend of the daughter. I can't remember the name. And he's just sort of hanging around. Then these 3 lads come in and start, having a go, and it goes outside, and he won't let it lie, sort of thing. He goes back to them, and then the woman turns up with a gun, and you can just sort of see the look on these 3 guys' faces, going, "What the fuck have we just got involved in?" It's like, I thought that was a great moment. Again, it's one of those tropes I love. Sort of people just bite it off more than they can chew, sort of thing. But it is just a great little moment there. Where it's like, oh yeah, well, there's 3 of us. There's only one of them, but he's also got a knife. And then this woman turns up in a car with a gun, telling him to get in, and it's like, what? It's very, very strange. Loved it. Cool. So 3/8 for Sunray Fallen Soldier. We highly recommend it. Do we know if it's getting a physical release? Just out of interest.
Not as far as not at the moment. Anyway, I mean,
Right.
it would be a film that would benefit from a Blu-ray release,
I would
definitely.
certainly
I've
love
just
it
got
if it does. Yeah.
just mentioned the two directors here, James Clark and Daniel Shepard.
Mhm.
This is their first feature, as far as I can tell.
They
So
hit the
again,
ground running.
yeah,
They
I
hit the
mean,
ground running.
what an impressive debut! I would say they've made a short film. Only again, I think they'd only made one thing before, a short film called Letters Home, which I haven't been able to see, but that was only like 4 minutes long, as far as I know. So, you know, whether there's other stuff they've done that wasn't reported on IMDb, but you know, they seem if they didn't have any experience much going in, I mean, they certainly have you know proved themselves with this thing. Absolutely,
Yeah.
Cool. Go check it out. Our next film is Rippy. Obsessed with living up to a dead father's legacy, a young sheriff finds her mettle tested when locals are found ripped to shreds. This works, Rich, in all aspects bar one. I'm
The
pretty
kangaroo.
sure the fucking kangaroo. Everything else works in this. The cinematography's great. The acting's good. You know, even I mean, Michael Bain at the beginning, he set up to be like the comic relief, but actually they ditched that very quickly, and he ends up delivering some serious pathos in his scenes.
It's a great role for him.
It was a great role for him, and you know, there's that bit when he's sort of talking about him and the girl's dad when they're in Vietnam, you know, and he's sort of saying that day we saw a dragon and all that. I thought, you know, he really, really delivers the lines. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. You know, the backstory I thought was great. You know, the particular deaths were really good. The prosthetics for the, you know, the cadavers was great. Everything was working until you see the fucking kangaroo.
CGI kangaroo.
It is a terrible, terrible CGI kangaroo. I mean, not all shots are terrible. You know, I think when you see a close up of its head, you know, and you see its eyes, I thought that works really well. He got the idea, and the idea, you know, the idea that it's, I don't know if it's been mutated from like toxic waste or whatever, or you know, something along those sort of lines. It all works except for the kangaroo, and that was really annoying. Even the score was great for this. You know, I mean, we've had so many horrible generic scores, especially in horror films and things. I thought the score in this was very good. I'm just really disappointed about the bloody kangaroo. How about you?
Yeah, no, I mean they keep it sort of fairly in the dark with the visual. You know, it's very obviously CGI. And they sort of keep it in the dark and they don't show it to you. But as the film progresses, you see more of it and stuff. And yeah, I just think it's such a shame. It's not too detrimental in my feeling, but I think I would have preferred like you know, like a physical, you know, physical kangaroo, even if it had more limited movements and stuff. I think they could have made that work. But again, CGI was probably a better, you know, easier thing to budget. But
I think that's
they needed a bit more money to really pull it off.
To render it better.
I think they made the right decision to not show it too much.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, you know, you're watching this film and you keep thinking, okay, I want to see the kangaroo kind of thing. I want the kangaroo stuff going, and it takes a long time, and there's not enough of it really. But it's only a short film. I mean, the credits roll at like an hour and 15 or something. It's really early, and like you say, everything else about it is very polished. The whole, you know, production. It's an Australian film set in a, you know, small, you know, backwater kind of area. You know, lots of lovely, you know, location cinematography. Great little cast, and say Michael Biehn is sort of there. They don't make anything of it, and he's not putting on an accent. He just happens to be an American who's there, but they do, you know, he is somebody who, you know, he's an American who knows the lead character's father. You know, they were both in Vietnam and stuff. And so there's stuff that comes out of that. But you know, he's there for sort of star quality. He's there for an American movie star who they can help sell the movie. And I think, you know, I thought he was going to have like a one and done sort of appearance. You know, maybe die at the opening, or you know, have a, you know, not a great role. But he's second build, and he's in it the whole way. You know,
he's in it a lot more than I expected. Yeah,
yeah.
I thought he's
got
going
a
to be
lot
the
to chew
crazy
on.
old coot who's, you know, people dismiss. It's like, oh yeah, you've seen a giant kangaroo. It's like, oh yeah, go away, Schmitty. You know, all this sort of shit. But no, I mean, yeah, he's there for the duration, as you say.
Yeah,
and
they
he gets these
change
great
character.
yeah, and he gets these great speeches. You know, these great bits of dialogue and monologues to deliver along the way. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of the film hinges on that relationship between Maddie and her father, who died when she was young. You know, and she's always had this impression that he died saving her from drowning in the pool, sort of thing. And everyone sort of let her think that, and until now, and it all comes out. I thought, so, you know, that it carries a lot of emotional weight, a lot of pathos. I thought it was really good. You know, at the same time, she's trying to save this town from this bloody kangaroo. It's great. We also have, unfortunately, you know, too brief. We've got Nathan Jones in this as well.
They seem to forget about him,
They
because I was
do.
thinking they put him in the jail, and then it was like they realised that it's the wrong person to be in the jail, and then I was like, well, did they release him?
No,
And
they just left him there. Yeah,
they do kind of come back to it at one point, but
Yeah.
it was thinking, yeah, where is he? But yeah, it was a shame he wasn't in it more, because it was a treat. You know, it's an Australian film. It's got to have Nathan Jones in it, basically.
Nathan Jones in it.
He turns up in, you know, he's if nobody's familiar with him, he's basically the really big guy who appears in
like a shit brick house.
yeah, he's been in Jackie Chan's First Strike, and the George Miller's Fury. I think it was Furiosa. He might have been in a couple of them, actually, a couple of the Mad Maxy films. But he wasn't it Fearless with Jet Li? I think he had a fight with Jet Li in that.
Yeah, that's right.
Or something. But anyway, he's one of those sort of journeymen. I think he did Ong Bak 2 or Ong Bak 1. I think it was Ong Bak he was in. Anyway, he's a real journeyman. He actually had a leading role in Thailand. He did like a family friendly action, you know, like a Vin Diesel, the pacifier sort of thing. But he did that in Thailand, and I never managed to get a copy of it, because I was always curious what
it's sort of a bit like Martin Ford, isn't he? Basically, sort of.
He is, yeah. I think that's a good shout. Martin Ford's kind of his physique is kind of
more sort of MMA kind of thing, was I'd say so. Like yeah. So Nathan Jones is more like a wrestler, whereas Martin Ford is more like an MMA fighter.
Yeah.
No,
but yeah, good to see him.
And you know, there's that tiny hint of a sequel at the end. And is it end credits or something? Is something going on there?
Just the final shot of the film, kind of you could lead into a sequel to that. The end credits, the animation is the setup. The end credits animation leads into the very start of the film. So it's how it happened, basically.
Yeah.
With again, without too much because this is one of those films with it's a pollution, is the cause, kind of
like Zombievers or something.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's loads of animal-based horror zombie kind of movies, and this is just sort of the latest one of them. But yeah, the setup is not delved into. It's kind of one of those things where they see us. I mean, I think it was The Crazies that I watched recently, the remake.
Oh yeah.
And you just kind of see a sign, and then I tell you what, the one that came to mind, Splinter. Because you know that they end up at the it all takes place at the petrol station or whatever.
That's
right,
but
they don't really establish what the threat was or where it came from, but you do pass like a chain link fence or something with like experiments, like danger, keep out, military research facility or something, and that's all they need to show. And in this one, it's like don't go near the water or whatever is the thing in this. And I will say at the start of the film, which is very unusual, there's not a lot of credits, but the title comes up, and then another credit comes up afterwards, telling you the name of the short film that it was based on. So I went and watched that, and that was really good. I think in a way the short film's better because it had kind of practical kangaroo and stuff. So the short film's 9-10 minutes long, and this isn't so much a remake, but I would say it's almost like a sequel to the short. The short kind of sets up the concept, but it's not got any of the same features. It's only got 2 people in the cast, and they sort of the zombie kangaroo attack is like one part of it that happens towards the end. It was called WATERBORNE. If anyone wants to go and watch it, it's definitely worth seeing. And say if you watch that and this, I think there's not a total through line, but it does feel like the two are essentially connected rather than being a remake. Even though there's 10 years apart in production, so that's how long it's taken to make this feature film version. Is say 10 years. Which over here it's called Rippy, and I was like, have they just made that name? Because Skippy the Bush Kangaroo, although it's so long ago, isn't it, Skippy? Yeah. But everyone still remembers it. But in the film, Michael Biehn says I named it Rippy, so it is actually part of the film itself. And actually, there is a "G'day Skip" reference in the movie as well, so it's very aware of what it is. I think in Australia and some other places, it's also known as the Red.
The Red, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm kind of glad they were able to sort of derive the name from the film, because I was starting to worry that once the Red, I think is quite an enigmatic sort of title, and it sort of like suggests a better quality monster than what we get here. So Rippy does kind of fit the quality that we get.
Yeah, I think it's inappropriate.
But at the same time, I'm glad that it was actually derived from the film dialogue rather than sort of like someone, fuck it, let's call it Rippy, So
but it's interesting they didn't go for Waterborne because they could, because that,
I think that's a bit more.
Waterborne doesn't sell you.
Yeah, it's a bit too obtuse.
Zombie kangaroo, does it? I mean, if you look up the YouTube video, it says Waterborne zombie kangaroo film, but if you didn't know that, the kangaroo part would be a real surprise, a real pleasant, whoa kind of surprise.
Well, I'd say surprised, maybe not a pleasant one. If you going by the CGI in this one, yes, we are.
No, I think it actually works. I think if you go back and see, because they didn't use CG for that film.
No, I do want to go see this now. The short, and maybe we could slap it on the footnotes.
Yeah, that'd be good. So my only other parting comment is that I felt the whole kind of film, in terms of relating it to other kind of monster movies and stuff, I thought it had quite of a Lake Placid kind of feel.
Yep, I'd go with that. There's also, funny enough, there was another wild boar movie a few years ago, which actually had Nathan Jones in it as well.
Yeah, wasn't he? He was like a leading character, or
he was one. He had a bigger part, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've not seen it, so I can't remember.
I did see it, and I thought that was quite good as well.
Was it Boar?
Yeah, that's it, Boar. Yeah, I've got a thing for wild boar movies. Actually, I've seen about 4 or 5 of them, because you got Chaw, the Korean one, and Pig Hunt. Pig Hunt's really good as well. And then the usuals, Razorback, of course, and Boar. So there you go, 4. Right, okay. Scores on the doors, Rich.
I'm just, because the kangaroo doesn't quite deliver, I'm gonna go. I'm really torn between 6 and a 7. No, I'm gonna go. No, I think 7. I think 7's fair. There's enough good qualities on this. I'm going to say 7. Yeah.
If it wasn't for the kangaroo, this would be an 8. Because everything else really does work. It's just like bloody kangaroo. So I agree with you. It is a 7. It's very entertaining. If you can forgive it, its CGI shortcomings, there is a lot to enjoy with this one. So 2 7s for Rippy. Go check it out. Our next film is Elite Force B.R.I. Homeless ex-soldiers from around the world are kidnapped and shipped to a mad scientist in London, England, who has plans to repair, restore, and send them on dangerous missions to take vengeance against corruption around the world. Okay. What we're dealing with here, guys, as you well know, because you got eyes and ears, is probably one of the most low-budget films we've covered in a while. The only one I can think which is of a lower budget is that Scottish one, which was a sequel. Rich, help me out here.
The Scottish one, which was a sequel.
Is it the guy who used to work for? The guy who works for AIM Publicity.
Oh,
You know the one I mean.
no, I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, okay. Two guys who are agents or whatever. Lots and lots of shooting. But anyway, but done on a shoestring.
You're not talking about like one of Nathan Shepka's films or something?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, yeah.
I think it is.
What, like Holiday Monday or something like that? Or?
No, it was a sequel to that, I think it was.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Anyway,
yeah.
So low budget, very, very, very low budget filmmaking. You know, scenes here. There are some scenes where it look like they've been shot in people's front rooms. You know, whatever spaces they could find. We've got very, very cheap looking.
It's a shot in a warehouse movie.
It's a shot in a warehouse movie, sneaking around corridors, which is all fine. Where the low budget really shows through for me is the amount of time it takes to get to any sort of action. You know, the action is very sparsed out. There's a lot of talking, lot of confrontations in boardrooms and things like this going on. When we do get some fights, they're not bad. Okay. You know, this stuff is going to appear on people's show reels, I'm sure. But I don't know. It's any sort of film is kind of a miracle, you know. So to actually get this made, to get it coordinated together, and to actually put out something which has a semblance of sense to it, I think is to be commended, especially on a budget like this. You know, it is threadbare, but we do get a fight in a lift. Okay, so I'm relatively happy. We get a fight in an elevator, which does sort of keep changing size, but that's fine. And I thought JD Duffield did a good job in that particular scene. She does get a couple of decent fight scenes actually, as do a couple of others. I thought, you know, the impression I got here was these guys are trying to put out something as best they can with the money they've got. And, you know, I'm relatively sympathetic to that. You know, it was a bit boring to begin with, and the motivation of the scientist I thought was very strange. You know, he's like, yeah, I've invented this super serum, we can heal soldiers, but we're not going to use it. You know, until they sort of say, yeah, well, you're definitely going to use it. Go, right, in that case, I'm taking the super soldiers with me and I'm going to fight you later. It's a bit weird, but probably no weirder than a lot of other stuff we've seen. Steve, what did you make of Elite Force B.R.I?
Yeah, you could tell shoestring is the optimum word for this. Like I said, the cheapest bit I thought was when they're raiding the building and he's got it on the computer screen.
Yeah. So and the thing is,
it looks like something from an Atari from the 80s, you know.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm absolutely sick to death of computer screens in movies. They don't, you know, did they really need to show it? You know, maybe just an establishing shot and then just everything else just through dialogue. You don't need to show us people little blips on the screen wandering around. We're relatively anyway, but that's me. Yeah, I'm sick to death of them, basically.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Yeah, I know, like sometimes you say, shoot for it if you've got the budget, or if you haven't, just go for it and see how it turns out. And I think this is just one of them where they haven't got the budget they need for it, but they've tried, and I just don't think it works. Really don't at all. I mean, performances I thought were terrible, especially the like the bad guy.
Mark Strong.
No, it's Mark Strange.
Strange. I keep getting the two mixed up.
Yeah, I just thought, no, terrible. Just overhamming it, chewing scenery. It's not good at all. And yeah, it's one of them where I just didn't give a shit about anybody. There's no connection. Just plod on, do what you want. That was it.
Indeed. Onwards and upwards, though. Well, I'm hoping. I'm hoping because these guys haven't got many credits. To the name.
No.
Everyone has to start somewhere. But anyway, Rich, what did you make of B.R.I. or Elite Force B.R.I.?
Yeah, I think the rename, the new title, the distributors added, helps. The original title B.R.I. on its own is just
shrug shoulders.
It's just meaningless. It doesn't catch you at all. And at least adding that other, even what it stands for, body recovery immunization.
Yeah,
it sounds random. It doesn't even sort of feel like it really fits as an acronym.
No. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, it's a super soldier movie basically, and it's a sort of a mission. It reminded me of like a TV pilot or something of like we watched that. I think it was like Soldiers of something. I can't remember what it was called, but it was originally supposed to be a TV series, and it was actually edited.
Yes, I know which one you mean. Yeah.
Had Tamar Hassan in it, I think.
That's it. Yeah.
Anyway, this one was a bit like Sunray. It's like new filmmakers, kind of thing. Don't seem to have a big history. The directors, I don't think, has done anything before. It takes a while to get there, but essentially it's a vehicle for a guy called Danny Darren, who's Kurdish British action guy. So that's quite interesting. It actually reminded me of in his casting, he looked a bit to me like the guy who's in Layers of Lies.
Layers of Lies, yeah. The
Iranian guy, yeah. But so he's part of an ensemble at the start, and it kind of the film focuses much more on his character as the film leads towards its climax. But it is very much a bunch of people assembled kind of thing. I don't really. I hate to be down on the film because there's people in this who we've had conversations with JD Duffield and what we like these people. So it's great to see her in a feature length movie. Which is, I think this is possibly her first. Maybe I'm not 100% sure on that. But got David Chung in there also, who's also had short films. Like JD showed at the Fighting Spirit Film Festival. Mark Strange, again, very much a presence in shorts and features. I didn't think it was too bad. I mean, I thought he was quite fun. But these are good people. Like to see them in a movie. Not so much about I don't think Danny Darren's necessarily got it, but I did enjoy the ensemble. There were some silly things, like one of the guys. I mean, they've all got these quirks of character. One of them has these flintlock pistols, which just seems ridiculous. That doesn't seem very tactical in any way whatsoever. But yeah, it's lots of sort of going around these sort of dirty corridors and abandoned warehouses and things and stuff. And I've seen my fair share of those. And this is trying to do like a sci-fi, super soldiers plot with like shoestring budget. So it's literally just like they can just show like a couple of glass cases with like somebody standing in there while they're sort of being pumped up with stuff, and they try to so they're trying to do stuff without the money, which it's quite common. I mean, Mark Strange was the lead in a film himself called, I think it was called Displaced. No, I think it was I think it might have been Displaced. It was way back
All right,
when.
all right, there. Yeah.
I think Sir Ian McKellen like did a voiceover
All right.
for it, if I remember correctly.
No.
I might be wrong. I have to check on that. But yeah, so that was another film that was British, low budget, but it was trying to be sci-fi story. Actually, I don't think that film actually ever gained UK distribution, which is why it's quite hard to find. But and Mark Strange did another film called Rupture, which was another British sort of sci-fi action thing, which was due to come out, and then it kind of never did, as far as I'm aware. You can't find it anywhere. So he's making these films, but they're not coming out. He was what I'm not sure if he was the main lead, but he was one of the main characters in Redcon 1, which was a very very high-profile film at the time, because that was a low-budget British film, but it actually had like a sizable low budget, and they'd managed to get tanks, and I think we mentioned Martin Ford earlier, and he was in it, and stuff like that.
He also turned up in Ip Man 4.
Man 4, yeah.
So he's in that, and he was also in was it Scorpion Releasing, that did a sort of flurry of martial arts films recently?
The Kung Fu Games one you just mentioned. Yeah, he's in that, which again he's got like a leading role. I'd like to see it. It's only available to buy though, which is weird. I've not been able to find it.
I enjoyed Lockdown, the one with Katie Lott, so I enjoyed that one. So I'm interested to see the others. Yeah. He's
also in, I don't know how big his role is, but he's in Hounds of War with Frank Grillo, the Isaac Florentine film, which I've still got to check out. Anyway, so there's some interesting people in this. I say it's a bit fun. I think the problem is the narrative is quite poorly articulated for what is quite a straightforward story. And I didn't really know, despite how simplistic it all is, I didn't really know what was going on half the time. I didn't really get the motivations behind what was the guy who'd assembled the team. There was kind of some, but then I was like, well, why are these guys going along with it? I didn't quite get the
there's all of that. Plus the ending, sort of the epilogue at the end, plus the fact that they're supposed to be full of this super soldier serum and yet keep getting killed and disappearing. All of this, but anyway,
there's some cheap visual effects in there as well.
I can live with that.
And there's the last part of the film, like the very end. There's a fun bit where they basically have a little bit of a chase around a trading estate, and there's like a tank and stuff. That was quite fun, but the rest of it is kind of all indoors. I don't know. I appreciate it's a good opportunity to get some of these guys some film work, get some exposure, get some show reel stuff. I just think it just unfortunately, unlike Sunray, which did so well, it was such an impressive debut. I think this is at the polar opposite end of that. They just unfortunately they didn't have the money and I hate to say it, the talent that they needed to sort of really sort of go. And I think even the title is just. It's a
typical kind of a sort of low budget, sort of pretentious sort of title, isn't it? Unfortunately.
If I can mention one other thing, the screener, just in terms of reviewing it, the screener had no subtitles, and there are scenes in the movie that are not in English, and I just could not understand why would you do a screener? Why would you give out a screener without subtitles? Because I thought it just meant without subtitles in general, but no, it meant without subtitles for the scenes that are not in English. So I was like, well, there may be quite inconsequential scenes, so I wasn't hugely fussed, but it did sort of add up after a while that I was missing stuff. I had a similar situation in a different way when I was watching The Killer's Game with Dave Bautista on Prime. If you put the subtitles on that, the English language is subtitled, but the anything spoken in foreign languages is not. So I'm watching the subtitles, and I was it says foreign language, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And then it was just the scenes were getting longer, and I was thinking, I'm missing dialogue here, aren't I? And then I turned off the subtitles, and then the actual that stuff started to be subtitled. Anyway, so that's an aside. But this one, say the fact that the screener didn't have the subtitles for a handful of the scenes also didn't work in its favour. I'm going to jump in and score. I'm going to say I'm going to give them the benefit
No,
of the doubt.
don't score it just yet, please. Thank you.
No, sorry.
No, that's fine.
I apologise.
Just a little bit of a change to usual. I'm not going to ask you guys to score this one just yet
No.
until we discuss our next film. And on that note, we're going to move on to MR9, Do or Die.
Yep.
So, an elite Bangladeshi spy teams up with a CIA operative to bring down an international criminal organization headed by a ruthless businessman. That is the synopsis for MR9 Do or Die. It starts, interestingly, with our hero getting dressed or doing the kitting up bit from like Commando and Rambo and that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
To a very strange bit of music. My big question to you guys is, what is this film's excuse for being so shit?
I believe it's because it's basically a shit rip-off of a James Bond film.
It is an amalgamation of just disjointed scenes joined together by Michael J. White. Is kind of the way I see this.
Yeah.
You know, you got Frank Grillo as the main bad guy. He's got two sons. I think one of it is very ambitious, you know, and it's a bit like Trump. Trump and Trump Jr. and Eric is kind of the thing, you know. But yeah, I'd literally, you know, Rich, you were saying about B.R.I. not knowing really what was going on. That's exactly how I felt with this film.
Yeah.
You know, there was so much exposition, and it was just kept on. Oh, we're going to send you to a safe house in the desert somewhere. Why? What has that got to do with anything? You know, it's just very, very strange. All this stuff, all this money, you know, all the production values this film had, that, you know, the guys behind B.R.I., I'm sure they would have been able to do something with it, with what, you know, with that sort of money. It was ridiculous. You know, the fight scenes were bad. Michael J. White's fight scenes were bad. They
got too bad.
Oh, come on, they were.
Yeah.
You know, by his standard, it was made up on the spot. I'm sure of it. The whole thing. I was no. It just did not work at all.
No.
What about you, Steve? How do you get on with this?
Yeah, like you said, to me, it just spent far too long just messing about, basically. It like you say, it's disjointed. It's just like joined together by these scenes in Michael J. White. It kind of reminds you, remember like when they started showing Power Rangers over here? And basically they took the Power Ranger bits and the monster bits and just filmed like American actors doing it in between.
Yep.
It's kind of like that, where they just mushed it all together and thought, right, there you go, chuck it on the screen. But it's like the first half hour, an hour, it's just a bit, it's a literal James Bond ripoff. You've got, you know, the big action scene at the beginning, then you've got like Q turning up, giving him all his gadgets and all that kind of gubbins, and you've got the bad guy and all that, and it was just like, why? It's terrible. It really was. And yeah, like you said, I don't think the action was too good. I thought it was very pedestrian. Even the fight scenes weren't great. The choreography was terrible. And I don't see who it's for. I don't know who's going to go and watch it. I really don't.
It felt like a vanity project. You know, do you remember, didn't we cover a film called, I want to say, Lady Scorpion or something like that, where it was this act.
The serpent.
The serpent.
Yeah, the Russian
God,
film.
Yeah.
But
It kind of feels like the male version of that, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I mean, Rich, did you get anything out of this? I mean, can you throw any charitable bones at it?
I will, to a degree. I've lost my notes on it, so I'm not remembering some of the stuff very well. But there was some things that stuck in my head, so I'll do my best. So this is I was wondering where our hero was from at the start, and it took a while, and then I realised it's the Bangladeshi anti-terrorist agency or something like that. So it's kind of a co-production, I think, because Asif Akbar, who's done films like he's done films with Michael Jai White, like The Commando. He's directed tons of stuff, but he doesn't normally. He makes films in the US, and this film is shot, say, at least partially in the US, I believe. It's certainly set in Vegas and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you got Frank Grillo, doing Frank Grillo, Michael Jai White, fine. But our lead character, yes, he is a James Bond knockoff, and that was kind of the because I was looking up some of the trivia, and the MR9 character, because at the beginning there's like a dedication, and that dedication is to the author, I believe, the author who created the MR9 character, which was obviously inspired by James Bond, but apparently he wrote like 550 books or something, like a lot of books based on this character. And this is like it's like a big film adaptation of it, and it was weird because it doesn't feel like it's a foreign film that's been, like a bit like what you guys were saying a minute ago. It's not got that sort of Godzilla 1984 Return of Godzilla thing where they basically take the original film, they dub it over, they add some scenes of Raymond Burr in there. It doesn't feel like that. It feels more connected, like the whole film was made that way to me. But the lead character doesn't really have any dialogue and stuff. It's like he's the main character.
He disappears for long periods of the film.
Yeah,
and a lot of the scenes, and I think this sort of echoes a point you were saying. A lot of the scenes feel like they're random and pointless, and and some really, really badly written scenes as well. There's this whole scene where because Frank Grillo is like the Bond villain character, and there's a thing about having cybernetic eyes and stuff, and everyone loves him, and he's at this party, and they're all like praising him. It's a bit of a Lex Luthor-ish sort of thing. And he's at this party giving this speech, and a few of the speeches that he gives, they just feel like, I don't know if they're like English as a second language or just badly improvised or just badly written in general, but they just don't really flow. They just sort of feel like, it's like they're not. It's not a very well written film. And there's, say, some of the action's quite funny. I remember there's one bit where there's a chase scene, and they run through I don't know if it was on a ship or on a building, but basically they run into a space in somewhere, and there's a table, and they do this jump over the table, like one after another, like it's like a bit in Ong Bak or something. Yeah. But the space is such that the table is like just in front of them, but there's tons of space around it. They could literally run around the table, and it would probably have been quicker. And I swear, it's like I was watching it, I was thinking, you just jumped that table for no reason whatsoever. And there was bits like that. I wish I could remember more of it. It is kind of one of those films, a bit like The Serpent and Code of Cain and Diamond Cartel and stuff, which I think I would get more out of on a repeat view, because I think there's some unintentional comic value to it.
Maybe we should do a running commentary on it.
A drunk commentary.
Yeah. A drunk commentary. We haven't done one of those in years.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's quite interesting that we've had like a Kurdish hero and a Bangladeshi hero, which is quite unusual. Unfortunately, both the films are not great. But I do find that interesting to see that we've got one's a British film, and one's an American film, ostensibly, and they've got these heroes of different ethnicities, which is always good to see. It's just that unfortunately these ones they're not great.
The thing is, though, and the reason why I didn't want you to score B.R.I. straight away is, if you compare the two films, there is a huge chasm in terms of the resources available to both films. MR9 had, it's got great locations, it's got it's got actual stars, it's got actual names in the cast, that people are going to recognize. And it squanders it all. It literally squanders it all. Its script is probably as bad as B.R.I.'s, and I don't think it has the excuse. I mean, B.R.I.'s got a bit of an excuse in that, inexperienced crew, no money, doing the best they can to produce something. But MR9 it doesn't have that excuse at all, and I think the results are, I mean, it's not that much better. They're both poor films in their own way, but I'd be more sympathetic towards B.R.I. than I would to MR9. That's me personally. And on that note, I'm scoring them both 5. So, Steve, what do you make of them?
Yeah, I'll probably go along with that. 4-5 as well.
And Rich?
I'm going to upset the apple cart just slightly because I'm going to go for. Although I completely see where you're coming from, I did get more out of MR9. It's got that Frank Grillo factor and Michael Jai White factor that just sort of elevates it a bit more. It does have. I think it's a more interesting failure, I would say. I was much more engaged and interested and curious about what was going on in MR9, and in BRI was just kind of both of them are quite confusing to a degree, but I think BRI was a bit more confusing just because it was like it felt like it had such a straightforward plot that it just make it overly complicating, or just I just felt I was a bit more engaged with MR9, so I'm giving BRI a 5 and MR9 a 6.
Okay, there you go. So 3 5s for BRI, 2 5s and a 6 for MR9. Do or die. Go check them out. Our next film is Blackwater Lane. Late one night, a woman called Cass drives by a stranded motorist who is later revealed to have been murdered. After a series of terrifying events, the woman believes she is the killer's next victim. Okay, so set in England, Steve, this one. It's set in a big old mansion in this quiet little village, and our heroine is an American, I believe, working as a drama teacher in the local private school. Her husband, Matthew, is working on an oil rig. Her best friend lives quite close and is sort of feeding her all the gossip and all the rest sort of things. So one dark night, she's driving home in the rain, sees this car parked by the road, notices there's a woman with her head against the driver's window, but then sort of basically goes and drives off. And it's only the next morning when she sees the newspapers that realizes, oh my god, she was dead and all this sort of stuff. And that's when things start going a bit doolally in the house, etc., etc. I did like this. It's way too long for what it is, but I did like it. There is a decent sort of bit of mystery going on. Is the house haunted? Is one of them. There's this weird shit going on. She gets weird phone calls. Someone tries to drive her off the road one night, and through it all, husband's going, "No, look, don't be silly. This is the one linked to your sort of dodgy past where you had a bit of a breakdown, and all this sort of stuff." So, I think it does a good job of like setting up the character, making us aware of weird shit going on, and then trying to downplay it, saying, "Well, actually, perhaps." She's got this sort of psychological disorder, as she had this sort of breakdown. And then we got this detective constable who, she's more concerned about this woman, about Cass, than she is about what's going on around her, because she thinks she's a sort of main sort of suspect in the murder. So there's a lot going on in that regard. I think it works quite well. The only problem is, like another film we saw recently, you hit a point in the film where you go, well, yeah, that's obviously the villain.
Right. Yeah, I'm not as up on it as you were. As soon as the villain came on screen, I knew it was just it's feeding so many different people as to who it could be as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
You know,
you got lots of suspects. You know, there's the
like
there's the
kids from the
the sixth
school,
former from the school who's infatuated with her. There's the tennis
tennis coach.
coach.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know, lots of good suspects to sort of play around with.
But I just thought it was a bit bland. I
Mhm.
mean, I mean, the only thing that really happens to her, like you say, is she gets some phone calls and someone tries to run her off the road, and she's being gaslit by everybody.
Mm.
And I just think it needed a bit more than that. You know, I just didn't think much happened. Yeah, it's not like there's a serial killer going around. It's one
Indeed.
death.
Yeah. Mhm.
You know, it sounds awful to say it like this, but it's one death, and I don't know why she suddenly thinks they're coming after her. You know, because at the point where she thinks that, nothing's really happened. It's just that she's seen it
Mm.
and think,
Well,
oh well, if I've seen it,
uh,
they must be coming after me next to just cover it up. Well, she's not seen anyone do
yeah.
it. You know what I mean? She's
Yeah.
literally just
Well,
seen.
there are a few things, isn't there? I mean, there's her earring gets found near the scene of the crime.
Yeah,
There's the guy fitting the security cameras, who's very dodgy. And you know, there's some guy that she keeps seeing on the grounds of the house as well.
mm,
You know, in the distance. So I think there's something there. But
yeah, but
at
it's
the
not.
same point, I think you're right in that perhaps she sort of does jump to conclusions, as you know, puts two and two together and comes up with five maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
But you know, the thing is, it's that gaslighting, and as soon as that starts happening, I was like, well, obviously, you know, that and coupled with something else, which I'll mention
yeah,
off
yeah,
air in a minute. But yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was, and you know, I like the way it sort of developed at the end. It is pretty slight, as you say.
yeah. I think maybe I was
It's
just expecting more, especially with the cast.
hmm yeah,
You
because
know,
we've got Dermot Mulroney in it, and
yeah, Minka Kelly,
Mika Kelly, and who's the lady who plays the detective?
Maggie. Oh, Maggie Grace is the other
Maggie Grace is in it.
American.
Yeah. Um,
There's Natalie Simpson.
yeah, because seen her in other things, I'm sure as
Mm,
well. So, yeah, you know, it's got a solid cast. There's some nice shots in it. You know, at the beginning we get a nice sort of one shot through the house. You know, the
yeah,
camera just sort of follows the different corridors and things. I thought that was very good. So, give you an idea of the size of the place. It is too big a house for one person or two, you know, two people to be knocking
yeah.
around in it. But there you go. Yeah, I thought it was relatively enjoyable, but it was at the same time quite slight, I think.
Mm,
You know, and it is too long. It needs to be, but you know, it's 1 hour 48 minutes. It didn't need to be that at all. It could have been trimmed down a
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
How are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 6.
Yeah, I agree. It is a solid 6. You know, it's relatively entertaining. Doesn't do anything too wrong. A lot of people enjoy it. So there you go. 2 6s for Blackwater Lane. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Queen of Hearts. In a lawless saloon, a stranger is roped into a game of poker by the owner and his goons. This is one of those nicely encapsulated films.
Mm,
Tells you everything that you need to know just through its visual storytelling, basically. Um, it's it's a one and done. We don't need to know what's going to happen afterwards. It didn't really need, we're told everything we need to know about what happened before. It's shot in a lovely widescreen, as westerns should be, and I thought this works really, really well. Rich, what can you tell us about Queen of Hearts?
This is action film for well, action western. So it starts out in fairly sort of standard western fashion, then turns into a sort of full-on action set piece. It's come from Canada, I believe, from starring Matt Myria. I'm probably messing Myria. Yes, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. And Brad Kelly, and yeah, I think it sets itself up really nice. The cinematography is really, really good. Director of photography is Stu Cook. I thought the action choreography was really solid. So it is it is an action short, so it's relatively insubstantial in terms of plot. It's kind of got a revenge thing, but there's a nice. It's all set up quite nicely with quite a lengthy character setup. Didn't you think? Did you like the way they sort of introduced all the characters?
Yeah, no, this is a solid one. Directed by a guy called Adam Chase, or Adam J. Chase. I think this works really, really well. As you say, the setup's great. We've got the sort of card game going on. That stack of cards is just the most dodgy stack of cards. I mean, that Queen of Hearts has got the corner burnt off it. It is the most dodgy pack of cards ever. But yeah, I like the bit when he introduces, he's going, "Oh, you guys are like, this is the king. You're the king. You're the jack, sort of thing. You're the two." I thought it was good.
Yeah.
In the way he chucks away the Joker card and it sort of ends up in the glass. I thought, I mean, at that point they should have been going, whoops, a little bit. So
it's got lots of ideas and characterizations and the camera movements and stuff, and I think it showcases quite a lot of things. The stunt coordinator on it is a guy called John Vellner, and he's worked on all sorts of stuff, including TV series like The Flash and The Last of Us and stuff. He's quite an established stunt performer, and here, so he's coordinating, and I think I wasn't expecting, because it's a western, I wasn't expecting the action to be quite as it was. So it's kind of a bit of a mix, but I think it worked really well. I think the western sort of look to the film was really well done. They've got a good. It's probably I don't know if they made this set or whether that it's an existing location that they were or something that they were able to use, because they certainly busted up.
They destroy half of it. Yeah, that's right.
So yeah, I think that I thought that all worked really well. So it's nice, good bunch of character. Reminded me, it's like a little bit like a kind of, we saw the in like John Wick 4. There's the card game with Killer, and they're all sitting down together. I kind of made me think a little bit of that. Not that I think that was an influence. So, you could think of anything like Maverick or whatever. There's all sorts of things you could. Card games and West. It all goes together. It's that kind of setting. Even Warrior came to mind, actually. Even though that's not a western, it's kind of got that western feel to it. The series, with Andrew Koji. So I don't really know a huge amount about a lot of the people involved in this. I think I got sophisticated films was the channel on YouTube that I don't remember when I subscribed to it, but I certainly there must have been something that they'd done previously that caught my eye. And this, if for somebody who's never seen any of their work, it's like as a newcomer as I ostensibly was, I was like, wow, it's really, it's so wide and really well shot. And I'm just checking out here. They've done some fan films. Daredevil Year Zero. There was one called Hunted, which was about Wolverine. And Behind a Closed Door. Yeah, that was. I don't know if we ended up talking about that one. I remember that. Behind a Closed Door was really good. that must have been the thing that captured my attention. Very good action sequence, again short, where a guy is he basically is trying to find someone. It's a bit of a Taken kind of situation, I think, and he's trying to find someone, and they're in this club or something, and he's basically got to fight the bouncers and stuff to get in there. That's a good short, definitely well worth seeing that one. Yeah, good stuff, good filmmakers, good stunt professionals. See it, like it, support their work.
Steve, what do you make of Queen of Hearts?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like you say, it's nice, encapsulated fight scene. You got a little bit of a run up to it, and then it just all hell breaks loose, basically. But I thought the fighting was done really well. It's shot really well. Yeah, it's just enjoyable, this one.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely worth checking out. 9 minutes long. Everyone's got 9 minutes to spare. You should be watching this. We don't rate the shorts, but we do recommend you check them out. And we will put a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Avenging Force. A senator is targeted by the Pentangle, a right-wing paramilitary group. His pal, a former CIA agent and martial artist, tries to help him, but the group kidnaps the agent's sister and tries to hunt him down in the most dangerous game style. I first came across this film a couple of years ago when I was doing the Junesploitation thing on Twitter, as it was. I'd never come across it before. Well, I mean, I knew of it, but I hadn't actually seen it. And so one of the things on this Junesploitation was, watch a canon film. So I think that's why I chose it. And the fact it's Michael Dudikoff and Steve James, of course. So I was really shocked by this because this is really mean-spirited.
Oh God, yeah.
This is really. I was really, really shocked. I think it's around about the middle of the film when they attack the safe house, and it goes hard for a few minutes. It really
not
does.
Even that. Even at the parade.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You've got what should I say, a child being killed.
Yeah. Yeah. No one's safe in this film. That's for sure.
Exactly. Back it up as well.
Yeah.
It's Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, that second thing that happens, if it was a grown-up, it would have been like, the beginning of The Naked Gun, when O.J. Simpson keeps falling into various traps and things.
Yeah.
Puts his hand in a bear trap or something, and then, all this, just keep one after the other. It's kind of like that, but because it's a child...
Yeah.
It's like it's nasty as fuck. It really is, and what happens is really bad. Yeah, this one doesn't pull its punches at all, Steve. What did you make of it overall?
I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it. It's decent, but I mean, the bad guys. They are fucking bad. You know what I mean? There's absolute scum. What they do is terrible, and just even how they do it is terrible. And the language they're coming out with, you're quite shocked. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Because there's no way you get away with it today.
No.
I mean, you might do if you're doing something like, I don't know, like Black Klansman or something like that. You know what I mean?
It's. I mean, there's the shootout of the Mardi Gras thing.
Yeah.
And then, when they get back from the hospital, they find that their home, this is a senator or the mayor of New Orleans having his house, covered in slurs and all this sort of shit. It's like, what the hell? It's crazy. Yeah. And you're trying to marry that up, that sort of really nasty mean-spiritedness with the sort of cartoonish element of them wearing these weird masks while they do their most dangerous game shit. It's almost like two different
it's like Dusk Till Dawn,
yeah.
with like the Western and the vampire flick just like shoved together. It's a strange film, but definitely worth a watch.
Yeah,
definitely.
So we're kind of cheating here, Rich, in that this is supposed to be the DTV throwback, and I had no idea, but you sort of pulled it out at the last minute that this film actually had a cinema release back in the day.
Yeah, the cinema released in many territories, but it was a video premiere in Norway and Japan, so it does qualify. I thought this was really, really good, actually, as well.
It is a really good film.
It's proper.
For sure.
It's proper canon. 1986. Sam Furstenberg directing. He was very active all the way through from things like Revenge of the Ninja and Ninja 3, even Breaking 2, Electric Boogaloo. That was one of his. And American Ninja, which was where he worked with Michael Dudikoff for the first time. And actually, he worked with Michael Dudikoff all the way through to the end of his career. He's still with us, but he hasn't made a film for over 20 years now. But one of his last films in 2002 was also with Michael Dudikoff. That was called Quicksand, which I haven't seen actually.
I've heard of,
But yeah, he worked with Dudikoff a few times on, say, American Ninja. Say he did American Ninja 2 and this, and also say Steve James was also in the American Ninja franchise. Was he in? Did he come in at number 2 or is he number 1?
No, he's in 1 and 2. Yeah,
he was in 1 and 2. So they made 2 after this. So this was him and Michael Dudikoff's second film together. They do a proper team up here, which was cool. I think like of Steve James is kind of like Cannon's Carl Weathers.
Yes,
he's like really, he's got that Michael Jai White sort of ish physique, and but he's like really, sort of again, well, kind of like Michael Jai White actually. He's like really friendly, but in that say, he'd do things like have a moustache and stuff like Carl Weathers. But yeah, he sadly passed away in like 1993. I think it was cancer that got him. So his career was unfortunately very short-lived. But he did have a leading role, which Sam Furstenberg also directed. That was called Riverbend. That was it's probably a lesser seen film because it's kind of dealing with issues and stuff. So less of a sort of straight action. It's more of an action drama. I did see it back in the day, but I can't remember much about it. I would like to watch it again. Steve James was a great presence. There's a bit in this where they do this big action scene, and all of a sudden his top's gone. He's but I had to go back, and there is a moment where you can sort of see out of the corner of the picture where he's just lifting his vest up for no real reason. But that sort of is sort of leading into him actually revealing his physique. Anyway, this film really delivers on all the action. I mean, they've said about this has been said about films like Revenge of the Ninja and stuff as well. There's so many action sequences, and they're all very notable. The stunt work's excellent. I mean, you look at so there's big shootout. There's the big car chase scene with the truck with the big wheels, which is kind of like a Fall Guy truck. Basically, I'm not sure if it's the same model or whatever, but it's that kind of truck. And they do a big jump with it and stuff, which is like properly 80s, like Dukes of Hazzard style jump, and the A-Team, stuff like we got back in, which you don't get anymore. You don't get cars doing. I mean, you do get cars doing jumps in Fast and Furious, but it's not the same. It never feels the same. It doesn't feel as grounded. Anyway, so some great stunt work there. There's a bit where the like you say, the house, I think it's the grandfather's house is kind of assaulted by the Pentangle group, and the whole place is on fire. And you do actually see there's scenes where Michael Dudikoff and some of the other actors are working against real fire. This isn't CGI fire. There's actual flames around. There's plenty of it as well. So
there were some good stunts in that sequence. So there's some good falls and.
Well, the fall off the roof is crazy because he falls off and he hits the like awning or whatever on the way down. It's like, oh Jesus! It's like a really probably got hurt. To be fair, probably got bad. Because that was more common back then. It's like getting more serious injuries and stuff. But yeah, so some great stunts, good performers. The Pentangle's really interesting. Just one final thought on that. When they first came on screen, and after the first sequence, when they're sort of doing their when they've sort of taken off their masks and they're sort of revealing themselves, you can't help but think of Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
Oh God, can you not? Yeah.
Really it's
cannot.
like, it's like this guy seems like he would be that kind of Lex Luthor president.
It is basically, it's the Proud Boys, isn't it? It's that sort of thing. You know, it's exactly that sort of paramilitary group. You know, that we're talking about. You know, it's sort of thing, the Oath Keepers and all that sort of bullshit. That's exactly what these guys are. You know. Yeah. Were you as surprised as Steve and I as to the tone of the villainy, shall we say?
I think you do you mean in terms of like the racism and stuff?
Well,
Or
yeah,
just
and,
like
and the the
the
fact
attacks and stuff,
the,
the fact
the,
they were
the
opening
sort
fire
of
in these huge crowds and stuff.
the taboo nature of some of the kills, as it were. You know, I mean, as a no one is safe in this film, is what was sort of thing. But you know, that is
no,
still quite
definitely. It was.
quite
I think,
shocking.
but that's kind of a trademark of films back then. I mean, you look at Michael Winner films and stuff. You know, they all sort of pushed it quite hard in a way that you don't necessarily see now. And there's obviously other factors, say like the racism and stuff is presented in a sort of different way. I mean, I was just listening to a book about the history of black performers in Hollywood, and but like they mentioned like 48 Hours and how uncomfortable it is to go back and watch 48 Hours now because there's so much racist dialogue. But like that Nick Nolte is like spouting and stuff. It's like it's really uncomfortable, and it's kind of like, well, it's it's uncomfortable that it's got John P. Ryan as Elliot Glastonbury, sort of spouting some of this stuff. But I could, although he's saying stuff like that, I can equally see that same performance in a Quentin Tarantino film.
Yeah,
I could.
Oh, God, I remember going to see Pulp Fiction, and me and my friends were sort of sat there watching it, and we were like squirming at times when some of the things that were being said in that film were absolutely ridiculous. You just hadn't heard it for so long, as you say. You hadn't come across anything like that, and then it was just like, N-word here, N-word there, and it was like, this feels wrong.
But wasn't that great? I mean, going back to the John P. Ryan character and stuff, and that he's they sort of do this lead up to the end. Michael Dudikoff sort of it's all settled around Louisiana, so there's lots of swamps and stuff, and they go to this sort of sort of like this old house, and they have their final confrontation. And John P. Ryan's not a young guy, but he's very confident that he's going to win, and it's like they give it a really good go, and he's really battering him around and throwing him around, and they're just using, and we've seen this device in other films, where he's got a collection, and so they're selecting things. Oh, grab something off the wall. Here's this old sword we're going to use, or here's this old, and he picks up this mace, and he's just banging this mace. It looks a bit silly when he's doing it, but he's giving it a fair welly and stuff. I liked it. I thought it was a good final fight, and I think I know Bill Wallace was in there as well, and I'm not sure if which of the characters he was, but I'm wondering if he was the balding guy with the moustache. I'm wondering if that was him. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, was he in
Turkey
Shoot?
Was he in Turkey Shoot?
Was it somebody looked like him?
Hang on. Yeah, I'm just trying to see. No, I don't think that was Bill Wallace. No, I'm not sure what. No, I might be getting the name of the actor wrong because I'm not 100% sure who was who.
Yeah. Was it William Wallace?
I say apart from John Ryan, but the guy who had the sort of fetish gear looking stuff when he was out killing. I thought he was really good. I liked him. I thought he was a good character. And then you've got like this young sort of fresh-faced senator character as well. Again, you can see it's an exaggerated sort of it's basically like a hard target surviving the game kind of group. But you can kind of imagine them as like connected to like real real figures that are currently in the public eye.
Yeah.
That you could imagine them potentially doing something like this and having these
Absolutely.
attitudes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it was Roger Ward was the guy I was thinking of from Turkish Shoot, but he's got that same sort of bald head and moustache kind of look. But, yeah.
Yeah, so proper
Cool.
canon action. This really good. Actually, I don't love Michael Dudikoff. I've got to be honest. I thought everything else around it I really liked. I'm glad we got a lot of Steve James, but I do feel like I do want to go back and, although I haven't seen that many Dudikoff films, I'm interested in the Dudikoff era of canon, and I think I'm going to try and check out stuff like Platoon Leader and stuff that I've never seen.
Yeah,
and maybe some of the American Ninja sequels,
yeah,
especially the ones with, say, Steve James.
I watched
quite a few gaps.
Yeah, I watched American Ninja 2 a couple of years ago, and that was really enjoyable. Because they are sort of basically almost like spies now. Working for this sort of like covert military guy. That was actually really good.
Did you feel the ending of this one was a setup for a sequel, or it was
definitely.
just one of those kind of opening? Yeah.
No, definitely open-ended a little bit, sort of.
Oh yeah, there's that whole Cajun sequence with the well, you would now say transgender character who's the madam of the house. But I don't know much about it. But why were they all speaking French? The Cajun is that what Cajun is? Cajuns are French.
I think it's a hybrid, isn't it? Yeah. It's like in Hard Target as well. It's because his uncle is French speaking in that, isn't he?
Oh, okay. I don't remember Hard Target very well, so
got the French Quarter of New Orleans and all that sort of stuff.
Right.
So.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting it. I'm piecing it together now. But yeah, that was a whole. There's a lot of interesting sequences in this film. That's because it's basically Michael Dudikoff's trying to rescue his sister, and he's trying to follow the leads and stuff, and Steve James is obviously out for revenge and that but it works really well. They say there's no surprise that Dudikoff and James worked together a few times. They had a good rapport. They worked off each other well. I really think Steve James was the guy who should have been the star, but had things worked out differently, maybe we would have seen that happen. I think if he'd have lived, I could see Steve James maybe having like could have had a second wind, thanks to some, getting in a Tarantino film or something. But sadly, films like this are all we've got of his career. So check out Riverbend if you can ever find it. It's an interesting one. But Avenging Force, we found it on Prime. It's probably a very sick. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray or anything. It's probably floating around on DVD somewhere. I'm not sure how well circulated it is these days.
Yeah, let me just bear with me so I can tell you. So, yeah, it is on Blu-ray. UK Blu-ray, and there's various other versions. I think it was also known as Night Hunter.
No, I think isn't Night Hunter a different one?
It says Night Hunter Avenging Force, unless it was.
I know you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm thinking of Street Hunter, which was another film that Steve James did a few years later.
Yeah, it seems to be quite. There's various versions of it on Blu-ray and DVD in various markets. So yeah,
definitely worth checking out. Definitely, I mean, they really had the budget to do quite a lot of stuff in this, and this is a peak canon, really, 1980, in the mid 1980s.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, we don't score the throwbacks, but we do recommend you check them out. And as Rich mentioned, we found this on Amazon Prime as part of the subscription. Go check it out. And that is the end of this week's show. So thanks, guys. There was a lot to get through this week, but I think, for the most part, it was okay. And there is one genuine find in there with Sunray, definitely head and shoulders above everything else, which is great. Don't forget to check us out on X. We are still there. But we're also on Blu-ray. It's Blu-ray. We're also on Blue Sky and Facebook at the DTV Digest, as well as the short shots, the DTV Digest short shots. Go check us out there. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.